Hello. Hello there, everyone. And I hope that everyone out there is keeping safe, given the circumstances that we are all in right now. And today there was something in me that just felt restless, and I found myself dwelling in the past, precisely on my musical journey, taking, the contrast between what I've done previously and what I'm currently doing. And this podcast thing wasn't planned. I didn't do or prepare anything. I just decided to give it a go and see how it goes. The idea, actually, I gotta say, I stole it from one of my favorite musicians and a person I very much look up to, Devin Townsend, of course. I love to hear his podcasts and his behind the stage, or in this case, behind the music stories, and that kind of lit me up in many nights, listening to his voice, talking about his records and what led to this, what led to that, and all those crazy stories from the background. And that was it's kind of interesting, and I really, really like it. So I thought, well, I've made a lot of things throughout the years, a lot of noise, a lot of good stuff, a lot of bad stuff, horrible stuff, really, most of them, but stuff nonetheless, music. And it led me to where I am today. It is very, very narcissistic, and yes, absolutely. But I think that in the end, it is what, it's the only thing that I have in my life that actually means something. Not just to me, but generally speaking, it is the legacy, or part of the legacy, that I leave to the world on the day that I'm no longer here. I think that is the ultimate punchline, if we can say so, for any artist, or, any human being for that matters. What we create is what stays for generations. So it's very important sometimes to just take a break and look back at what you've done, regardless of your area. Share with you some of the shit that I've done throughout the years. Most of the people might know me from singing in Ashes and Sullen, which are the bands that where I am currently performing. And this time here with this pandemic allowed me and actually gave me a little bit of time, more than I've hoped, to be honest, to think about what really matters to me and what I should or should not pursue, artistically speaking. And I've decided to drop some of the projects I was in, so this is something you'll be hearing about soon. But in any case, this project right here, The9thCell, this is where it all started. Even before I got in Ashes, The9thCell came first. This is essentially a melting pot of the weirdest, craziest, horrible ideas that I could muster into the same melting pot. Everything that I would not be able to do with the band, I would do here. This is essentially it. It's my own escape. It's my own world, for as bad as it may sound, or for as good as it may sound. It depends on what you like to hear, and depends on Yeah, I know who you are, Salty. I've been away from the Star Citizen community for a long while, but a big shout out to Salty and everyone at Miners Union. I've just been through a different path at the moment. But anyway, sorry, back to the matter at hand. So yeah, the 9thCell. This is where it all began. This is, even before I got into Ashes, I sang with a couple of bands in my hometown, which is Ovar. By the way, let me see if I can show it to you. I'm not entirely sure if, whatever. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I don't give a shit. Let's go. Oh, let's see in maps. Yeah, let's go to maps. So yeah, my hometown. This is where it all began, people. I'm not kidding you. This is Ovar in Portugal. This little Spain's beach, as many people consider. Yeah, so this is the cradle of everything for me. This is where it all began. And in this particular place, I started to... Actually, this picture is wrong. This is not from Ovar. It's from a very close city. But anyway, I digress. This is where it all began, right? This is where I'm from. And this is where I started singing and just mainly doing noise. A lot of noise. If I'm completely honest, I think that music came up to me perhaps in 2000. Actually, before that. I think it was actually 99 where I started to use Magic's Music Maker. Oh my God, does it even exist anymore? Magic's Music Maker. I can't believe that if it still exists. Okay, so essentially this was the first software that I've ever used to make music. This was it. Back in 99 or 98, I'm not sure. And I used free samples from this program that they had a collection of free samples. And actually this helped me to start to get a sense. I didn't know anything about music, mind you. I still don't. But at the time I was a complete ignorant music-wise. And, well, not only music-wise, but mainly music-wise. And it is funny to think that everything started there. Thanks, Salty. And it's really, really funny to think that everything started there. Just joining in mixing the drums and the bass and the guitar samples and then putting a little bit of a keyboard here and there and trying to see if everything fits. At the time I was playing a game. I don't know if obviously everyone remembers. Star Wars Racer. That was a game. And also Kingpin, Life of Crime. This was back in 99, yeah. And I stole sounds from those games because they were easily available at the time. You could actually just go to the folder and grab the WAV files, and I would mix them in a project, right? So I could make these remixes and weird whatever I felt like was doing at the time. But that essentially was exploring. What I did was exploring musical and sound possibilities, and that's where it all started. I'm not kidding. I did not start singing in the normal way. I was always crazy about sound, always, since I was a kid. One of the things that I remember most fondly is, this is really weird. When I was a kid, my dad had this VCR, VHS format, the tape. Yeah, I'm that old. Anyway, we would have these. He actually had a VCR plugged into a cassette recorder that had 2 decks. And you could actually play a movie or whatever it was that was on the TV. But this was directly into the VCR. And you could actually record it into a tape. Now, being the geek as I am, or a nerdy kid as I've always been, I decided to make my first experience with tapes back in 97, this was. So I made a trailer using several sentences from the Predator 2 movie, I kid you not. This is how I got started. I wanted to make a trailer, but I didn't have a microphone. I didn't know how to do any of that. So what I did was I just recorded little moments of the movie. So I put pause on the tape from the cassette, went back to the video, played the part I wanted, recorded on the tape, and did this countless times until I had a small sequence of about 30 to 40 seconds of several moments from the movie mixed together to make it look like a trailer. It's ridiculous, but it's actually an amazing exercise, and it's what got me started. And I remember I did the same thing for another movie, the name, Rocketeer. Yeah, it's not a bad movie. It's horrible. No, it's actually not a bad movie. And I took that movie and I recorded it. That was my first experience with sound. I recorded the movie entirely to a cassette with two sides. I actually had a 90-minute cassette, so I had to switch sides and all of that, A and B. And then I started to do that with all my favorite movies, RoboCop, The Predator, The Terminator, and all that. So when I went on my own bike trails, which I loved riding my bicycle, I used the Walkman from my brother that he wasn't using at the time, a very old Walkman. I think it was a Grundig Walkman. It was a red one. It even had analog equalizers that you could actually use to enhance the sound with bass and treble and all that and whatnot. It was so funny. This is really interesting. So I went out with my bicycle with the big ear, headphones, not the small ones that we have nowadays. I'm talking about the real big ones that we, that made me look like that song. I'm having a lot of blanks right now, but freestyle. Yeah, I looked like the kid from that video clip from that song. So essentially, I went on my bicycle rides for hours on end, listening to movies. And what I got from that was music, the orchestral music that, of course, follow the movies, and also the way that the sounds mixed into the play. And, of course, the actors' voices and the way that they talked and everything. And believe it or not, that's what got me into music in the first place. That's where it began, right there on those sound experiments. I think it's funny to recall that now, because if I look back, or in this case, if I look at myself now, where I've learned so much, and still I believe that I know nothing, or close to nothing for that matter. And I still, a lot of people, have this sort of weird respect, and I don't know what to call it. I've never been good at accepting compliments, but a lot of people seem to enjoy my voice when I sing, which is actually cool. I like it because I love to sing, and that's actually nice. But I'd never, even now, on 2021, I still think and firmly believe that I'm way back on what I think I can do, musically speaking, in terms of my ability to sing or my ability to understand and I don't know how to say it in English, interpret music in a sort of way. Well, whatever. You get the picture. So those tapes with with movies and stuff, that's where I started to want to, meddle with sound and experiment with sound in many different ways. And then, of course, Magic's Music Maker, making my first remixes and my first songs. That actually got me into, starting to wanting to create something. So, I'm so sorry, my voice is kind of weird lately. I think I'm smoking too much. But anyway, that's how it began. And in those first years that I consider to be my first years, from 97 to 2000, I switched from Magic's Music Maker to a very interesting program, which I don't think many people will remember this. Oh my God, I didn't even know they made it anymore. It was Sony Acid Music. Oh my God, I misspelled it. And oh my God, does it still exist? Oh Jesus, yeah, I loved it. I loved this program. This was the first program that I used to actually start to build things and write music. Oh my God, this brings me back. Let me have a look into this. Oh my God, am I in some sort of pirate site? Oops, sorry. But anyway, yeah, this was a program, Sony Acid Music. Also with samples. I started with samples in the beginning, of course, because I had no way to play things and record things and whatnot until I bought my first guitar. And this record, Lonely, is a mix of everything weird that I was doing at that particular time. I think this record probably was one of the longest records I took to make, not because of any kind of complexity or anything, but because most of these songs came from many different sessions, from many different purposes and objectives that I had at the time. I think that I started to write, if we can call it that, most likely in 2003, I think. And most of these songs, Hate Euthanasia, for example, is an exercise in sampling. This song right here, let me just play it a little bit. This right here that we're listening to right now, these are all samples, right? From a collection that I downloaded and stuff, freeware samples, mind you. And this even the guitars in this part are sampled. Nothing in here is actually played, with the exception of the drums. These drums are programmed by hand in Acid Music Maker. Music Maker. And when I say by hand, I did have all the drum sounds separate. The bass drum, the hit hat, the hi-hats and everything, the snare, toms, whatever. Everything was in separate samples because I did not have a sequencer like we do nowadays with Easy Drummer, for example. At the time, I didn't have any of that. So I was literally drawing on a grid all of these little hits that you listen to. Yeah. And that sample that you just heard, this man screaming right here, this is from Postal, the game. Listen. Yeah, that person screaming is from a game. The very first Postal game. I like to use these references in my songs, so sometimes I just pick a little bit of a movie or a little bit of a documentary or a game, and I just mix it all together. Maybe one day I'll tell you a secret about a very famous song from Ashes and two peculiar samples that we've used in one song that practically nobody knows about except for me and the guitar player, one of the guitar players, Pedro Galera. But anyway, I digress. So when I first started this project, the 9thCell, this was my very own way of conveying my musicality in a way that I would not be constrained by anybody, in a way that I could be absolutely free, that I could do anything that came to mind, anything that I loved musically, sonically even, was here. This was my free reign. I could do everything here. And I think that looking back, actually, through what I was able to do with this, I was always very much honest with myself And I always did just that. I didn't care about style. I didn't care about genres or limitations of any kind. I would do what I could do with what I had. That was pretty much my philosophy here. And at the time, I was not very much concerned with the way it sounded. I think that nowadays there's a lot of competition musically where, a lot of people are very much concerned about the way that it sounds. And I understand it. I mean, the musical aesthetic has to be very much thick and important. And of course it is important. I mean, it's what identifies you. But I think that there's like this sort of template where a lot of people just copy each other, like 3 different bands that sound exactly the same. That sucks, man. It just sucks. And it's a shame, really. There's a lot of great, talented musicians out there. Some of which I know personally. And this is not this is a world, I call this a worldwide pandemic. There is this sort of sound production template where every single band sounds like the same barren shit that comes out of your speakers. I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean, I just feel disgusted sometimes because, for example, in the 90s, you would hear a band, regardless of the band, and you knew what the band was. There was a distinct sound for each record. You would know that Machine Head was Machine Head, Korn was Korn, Sepultura was Sepultura, Metallica was Metallica. If you start to play just a little bit of one of those records from any of those bands at that time, from that particular time frame, from the 80s to the end of the 90s, you can easily recognize, oh, this is Pantera. Oh, this is Metallica. This is Sepultura and whatnot and whatnot. And that was always something that I was very much concerned, that I was not actually very much concerned with the 9thCell. And every single of these records sound tremendously different from each other. And this was something that I've always had in mind from the get-go. I don't like to do repetitive things. I always like to explore new ways of doing whatever it is that I'm doing in life. And in music, it is expressed sonically, where at each record, I change the sound aesthetic to a point where the only thing that connects all of this madness here, is my voice. Because otherwise, everything sounds completely different. If you listen to, for example, Lonely, and then you listen to, let's say, Galga, they sound nothing alike in any possible way. Well, of course, there's a time difference between these records, but apart from that, it was a very much a self-conscious decision that I did not want it to be boring in a way. My intention was that I was making this for myself, obviously, first and foremost for myself. I didn't care about anybody else. This is what I love to do. This is how I love to do it. And if somebody else likes it, well, then yeah, cool. That's nice. That's perfect. If nobody does, well, it's cool. It's cool all the same. It's a big world and everybody loves what they love, and that's excellent. So in here, my idea at the time, my point was, I would never be a hostage of these sort of rules. There were no rules, and still are no rules to the 9thCell. There's, of course, a few things you can link from each record to each record, like you know what I mean. It's like I love rock and metal, and I also love orchestral music. So those elements, they will be very much present, I think, on every single record. You have these elements. There's metal, there's rock, there's, hell, I don't know, orchestral stuff here and there. And that's pretty much, I think that's pretty much the identity of this project, aside from my voice, of course, which is, well, in every single record. And this record right here, Lonely, I always remember it very fondly. I have a deep love for this record. It sounds horribly bad. if you take in consideration the nowadays standards, it sounds really horrible and bad. But to be frankly honest, there is a little sort of feeling to it that I honestly can't find anywhere else. Of course, this being me, this being my own doing, every time I listen to any of these songs, I remember exactly what I did. I know exactly what the intention was, what the purpose was, and how I wanted it to sound. And for the first record, I did not went in on it alone. So I called a few friends, for a few features, if you will. And I think that each contribution was very much adamant to the way that the record progresses. Because this is a story, right? So, this was the first record that I released by myself. And I wanted to tell a story. I did not want to make a record where you would have like singles, isolated songs, which is just fine, mind you. I love that. There's lots of bands that I listen to whose songs have nothing to do with one another. It's just, well, this is one song, that's another song, that's a single, that's not a single, whatever. I pretty much wanted to tell a story by this point when I released it the first time. What you see here on my own Bandcamp, this is not the way that it was at first. And like George Lucas did with Star Wars plenty of times, by going back, remastering, changing things, I did the same thing. Maybe because we're both Tauras. I don't know if you believe the astro bullshit or whatever. I think it's funny. I don't fully believe it, but I do find a lot of, weird and interesting connections there. And yeah, so I'm a Taurus, and so is George Lucas, and so is Evan Townsend and Mike Portnoy and Trent Reznor, and some of my own favorite artists are Tauruses. Wow. In any case, this record right here was a collection of ideas that I've had from, I think, 2003 until 2005, because all of these songs were made and produced until 2005. I've released it in 2006. Actually, I've made a first release in 2005, and I think only one person, which was my English teacher at the time, only she has that original physical copy of the original version, which was not even called The9thCell, because for copyright infringements, I had to change the name to The9thCell, because this was not even the name I gave it at first. Oh my God, yeah. Let me explain. So, before I released the record, I had to register all the songs and whatnot, and I had to register the name of the project. The9thCell is what ended up being, but the first name was MIG, M-I-G. This being a very stupid idea of my second name in a kind of like, how do you say, in a short version, So I tried to go with MIG. Yeah, this is my first record. The name of the project is MIG. And I wanted to register, and the lady says, sorry, but that name is already registered. You can't use it. And I'm like, oh. I even had artwork. Believe it or not, I don't have it here on my computer, and it's probably lost somewhere on my old discs that may not even work anymore, or CDs, I think, that are back in my hometown. But yeah, it was not called The9thCell, it was called MIG. So I had to make this name on the spot when I was on the registry booth. So I asked the lady, okay, just give me some minutes here, and I'll figure something out. So I went back. I sit on the very close to the bench, to the registration booth. I sat down and I thought, what the fuck am I going to call this now? Because everything in my head was MIG. That was the idea that I had defined. Like, it's MIG, it's me, it's so. And I never thought, in any circumstance, I never thought of a name, a particular actual name for the project. It didn't make sense to me at that time. And since I did have, still do, I think, a beautiful hatred for indie bands, at least that kind of indie that I personally, I don't mean any disrespect for indie bands out there, but there was a lot of indie bands at that time that annoyed the shit out of me because I really didn't like it. And I remember that most of those bands had their name started with the Hives. Ugh, I fucking hate them. I don't know, the whatevers, the whomevers and whatnot. Yeah, I did say this. I really hate the Hives. I don't like that band. It's nothing personal. I just don't like it. But, free world, everybody listens to whatever they want to listen to. They have a great career, actually. I just happen to not like their sound. It just annoys me to hell. But anyway, I digress again. This takes me actually back just one moment. This reminds me of a particular situation where I had to endure a full The Hives concert. Oh man, it was painful. I was dying inside at every single second they were performing. I was literally dying inside. And I wanted to watch Rage Against the Machine, so you can, make a comparison here. But in any case, I don't like to compare music or bands because every single band is different. I don't mean anything hurtful to or mean against the Hives. They have their own sound and they've made, a great career, and that's good for them. I just want to point out that to me, I can't stand that sound, but that's me. And I am weird. So, whatever. It's my own opinion. And like Prince once said, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And trust me, I am an asshole. So there you go. In any case, I went to see Rage Against the Machine here in Portugal. And this was a show that I was very much thirstful for. I was like, I couldn't wait for them to get on stage. I love Rage Against the Machine. And guess what band was performing before Rage? That's right, the Hives. Oh my God. Anyway, I went to, center stage. So I went in between the sound mixing table and the stage. I found a perfect spot. I was like, all right, I'm going to stay right here. I'm going to watch the Rage Against the Machine show from this very spot. And the Hive started to play. Oh, Jesus. And then there was all these girls like, oh my God, and crying and stuff. And I was like, what the hell are these guys? What, the Beatles? Much respect for the Beatles, by the way. But yeah, whatever. So I had to endure and stay there because I was alone. So I had to stay there by myself, listening to all these hysterical people screaming their lungs out for the Hives, giving them love and praise. And that's good. It's good. Just support your band. It's whatever. But I was dying inside. It was the same thing as sticking me into a church or whatever and making me listening to some priest talking about whatever it is that they talk about at churches. I honestly don't know anymore. So yeah, I stood 1 hour of the Hives to listen to Rage Against the Machine. And funny story, I actually had to go back when Rage Against the Machine started to perform because it became a riot. Once they started, I was listening to their concert in Dolby Surround because there was mosh everywhere, and people were fighting each other, and oh my God, it was it was intense, very much intense. But anyway, what I meant to say is I had to find a name, and I decided to go with something that could on itself be a parody, because I love to do parody of stuff. I think it's a stupid part of me that always wants to, mess around with stuff. And I hated bands that started with actually I don't hate the Dillinger Escape Plan. I actually love them. I think they're called Dillinger Escape Plan nowadays, but I remember a time that it was the Dillinger Escape Plan. I think I might be wrong. In any case, I remembered I really don't like that, so I'm going to use it, which was like sarcasm, And then I was thought, okay, I got but the what? The fuckery, the your mom, the what? I was completely lost, out of ideas. And then I remembered that, my favorite number is 9. For some reason, I honestly cannot know where it comes from. It's just 9 always sounded good to me. Maybe a therapist can look into it and say, that is some very interesting thing. The number 9 actually is related to stupidity, which you are. In any case, so I got the number 9 ringing in my head, like, okay, the 9. But the 9 what? The 9 circle? The 9... And then I remembered, of course, 9 Inch Nails, which was one of my favorite, and still is one of my favorite bands, Trent Reznor, high praise. And I was like, God fucking damn it. If I cannot call my project the 9th, something, because people are going to think that I'm ripping 9 Inch Nails. But then I remembered, hold on a second, 9 Inch Nails does not have the before the name. It's just 9 Inch Nails. All right, let's scrap that idea. I'm not ripping anybody off. And then it was like, okay, the 9th what? And all of a sudden, there was something that I thought about, this cage. This sort of this, kind of like this insane asylum or something like that. And I was thinking, yeah, well, in a sort of way, it is what this is. This is like a cage, like a cell, if we can call it, where I just throw all my weird, crazy-ass ideas and hopefully make something good out of it, or something that I personally enjoy. And then it was settled right there and then. The 9th Cell. There it is. So I went back to the lady, trembling. Mind you, I was trembling. Like, I was thinking to myself, if she says this name is registered, I'm going to kill somebody. Because I honestly don't know what else to do. So I went there and said, okay, I want to register as in the 9thCell. She goes like, choo on her computer. And those seconds, man, I still remember it vividly, like it was happening right now. I think it was around, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 seconds. She was staring at the monitor. And I was like, oh my God, come on, man. Jesus fucking Christ. Don't tell me that's already taken. Jesus, no, it's not possible. I was already trying to think of something else. Like, okay, the 9thCell, maybe I could call it like, and she goes like, it's done. And I'm like, oh, right? Can I use it? Yeah, you can. Excellent. Bam, right there and then, the 9thCell was made. And I went back home with the envelope, with the registrations and everything. It was I was so proud of myself at the time. I remember being so ignorant and naive about music and the music world. But it felt like a victory, I think, of sorts. I have a work, something that I've done, and it's registered on my name, and I own it for whatever purpose, for all purposes and intents. And that's when it was born, essentially, the 9thCell. And this record right here, Lonely, is a recollection of bits and scraps I was doing throughout the years. I think that one of the things that influenced this record a lot was my own personal life, obviously. Because this story right here, it's my own story. And I'm just letting it out there. Everything that I speak about here happened in real life, in my own real life. I was dealing with separation at the time, and at the same time, I was dealing with issues of falling in love with someone that for whom I had the utmost respect, but I could not in any possible situation be in love with this person. And this was damaging me. This was, being a teenager as I was. This was kind of like, I was amplifying everything, of course, because I was an idiot, a naive kid. And I had to do something about it, I thought. So I did. I used all of this inner turmoil, as in track 6. I have to tell you a funny story about this track, but anyway, just as a quick snapshot. Oh my God, now I realize I have so much things to say, and I'm such a boring individual. Anyway, yeah, this is real. There is nothing in here that I'm lying about or metaphoring about. This is about my first relationship all the way down. I would say probably first relationship, and from here on out, from this part, from lonely to shattered illusion to hurting regret to intrude, the sorrow within, euthanasia, unrequited dream. This was all about, I think, if I recall correctly, the person I was actually at the time falling in love with. And I think that is very interesting, the honesty that you can explore in music. For everything that you feel and everything that goes through your personal life, you can actually find a way to bring it out there through stories. And this is a story, but, well, it's not as real as, well, if you don't know my personal life, you will have no way of decoding these. But if you listen to it in a sequence, you start to understand that there's this little connection link in a sort of way that connects all of these songs together. And this is basically a story of a teenager in search for love and dealing with rejection from both people, from the first girlfriend that ended very badly, and there was a betrayal, not from the part of the musician, mind you, but in any case. And then from there on to falling in love with someone else, And this record, most of these songs were composed, and I sang through all of them in 2005. 2005 was a year when I was unemployed, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and that's when I did all of this. Yeah, and I remember even sleepless nights listening to Dream Theater, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence it was, in the living room in my parents' house, but that's where I was living at this particular time. And I was listening to Dream Theater, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, both the first and the second CD, in loop at the time I was making this record. I couldn't sleep, so I went to the living room because at the time, I don't know why, I did not want to listen to it on my computer. I felt like I needed a high-fidelity system that I could actually feel everything. So my dad had these professional ear headphones that he got from the radio, because he used to work in the radio back in the day. And he had these very professional headphones that I could not plug to my computer, so I could not have that, sound ferocity and fidelity that those headphones had. So I went to the living room, put the CD on that I bought, put the 6 Degrees, the first CD, played it, put the headphones, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and then listening to the second part, laying down on the ground of my living room. And I was thinking to myself, if my parents wake up and they see that I'm here in the living room listening to music, I am so fucked. I'm so fucked. But anyway, yeah, that took a bit. I think that record has a little bit of an influence in here, in the way that I convey the story and in some interludes and stuff like that. Now, I told you a little while ago that I wanted to tell you a little funny story about Inner Turmoil. This song right here. This song here that I'm just going to... Okay, so you see it's like an orchestral thing. Okay. Now, the story about this song is I was experimenting at the time with Reason, a very interesting and excellent audio software that my good friend Ricardo Mestre showed me at the time. I don't know the real name. Let's just put Propeller Head Reason because... Wait. Blah, blah, there it is. And this program is amazing. It's fucking amazing. I loved it. And I still do. I don't use it nowadays, actually. It's been a long time since I don't use it. But at the time, most of this was made here in Reason, and then sampled from here to WAV files that I would then use on Acid Music. So the process was going ping pong, going from one program to the other. So I would do something in Reason, trying to keep it on the 4x4 bar time signature, making sure that I had all the delays and the reverbs with dither and all of that, so I could then export that to Acid Music, and then I could work there where I could record the voices and add some other effects and stuff like that. But every effect, I did not do anything live in a sort of way. Everything was done by exporting from here to Acid Music and just hoping that everything would work. And now that I listen to some of those songs, I find it so funny because I can locate the interlooping sections that I was thinking, oh my God, I could not have done it worse. You can tell that some of the things were done in Reason, obviously, and then just transported to Acid Music. You can just tell. If you're familiar with these programs, you'll listen, you'll hear it, and go like, oh yeah, I remember this. I know this pad. This is from Reason for sure, and it is. And the drum sound for this record. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, the Inner Turmoil song. Yeah, this song actually came on a night where I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm just gonna let it out anyway. I was watching, what's the name? Spider-Man 2. The second movie from Spider-Man, with Octopus and stuff. This was not the new Spider-Man stuff. This was way back in 2002. And I've seen that movie many times. By 2004, I've already seen it a lot of times because I really loved it. I really, and still do actually. It's an anyway. I remember I was watching when I was making this record. I think this was the beginning of 2005. I can't be sure but I think it was sometime around March or April. And I watched the Spider-Man 2 again, and I remember this scene where Octopus and Spider-Man are fighting in the train scene where Peter actually is fighting with Octopus, and then Octopus leaves and he has to stop the train. Yeah. That scene is what inspired this song, as odd as it seems. I don't know why, but after I seen the movie again, when I've seen the movie again, this came to mind, and I was like, I was so inspired, I was so fired up with the movie that when I got into my room, I wanted to start. I wanted to do something that would invoke that sense of, action, that sense of that inner turmoil in a sort of way. Well, weird. So I'll just take one moment to speak about the drum sound in this record because it's a peculiar thing. Let me see if I have something here that starts with drums. I think it's this one, yeah. So that sound right there, the snare sound, Oh no, that was not on this record, I think. No, it was in a different record. I'm sorry. I was mixing things now because I did sample Deftones and Limp Bizkit one time. And I basically sampled the snare sound from Deftones, from White Pony. And the Limp Bizkit, what was the song? I think it was from the Green record that I like about 3 or 4 songs of that record. Yeah, Results May Vary, that's the name of it, yeah. So essentially, I stole the snare from that record from one of the songs where the snare was alone, and I'm like, bam, got it. But I think that's not the case in here. I can't properly remember. That's weird. I don't remember that, but I think it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, this snare drum is from Limp Bizkit. It's from that Results May Vary record. I used it, and I stole it. I don't care. I really love the way that the snare sounded, so bam, there it is. So, back in the day, in my hometown where I made this record, I wanted to invite some of my closest friends to make something, to sing with me or to play a part somewhere. That was what I wanted at the time. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't alone for the ride, for my first ride. I wanted to, because it was the first time that I was actually doing something by my own. And I thought it would be interesting to have some of my friends to, participate in a way or another. And I invited a few of them, not many, but these are very, very close friends of mine. And not enough love in this world for Susana Andres. I love her voice. She is, she's an adorable person. And she had a band at the time. I think it was Water's Flame, if I'm not mistaken. A grunge band, rock grunge band. I really enjoyed it. And I still sometimes find myself listening to the record she gave me at the time and thinking, wow, man, the way that music was made back then and recorded and all of that, it's way different than things nowadays. Nowadays, it's really hard to, like I said earlier, it's really hard to find something truly original, both sounding and both, the composition and the band itself. There are lots of good things out there, mind you, but it's becoming really hard to find something like that. And I remember that at the time, her band made me feel things about music that I was very interested in, being a grunge fan that I am, and I think that I always was. It kind of imprinted into me, Back in that day, I was listening to Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Chris Cornell, obviously. I loved his voice, always did. I really do, and her band kind of brought me into that spectrum, into that grungy kind of spectrum. Bush, oh man, they had really great albums back then. Anyway, so yeah, I've invited her. She's a very great friend of mine, and I had to have her on my record. I said, listen, I've got 2 songs that I would love to have your voice. One is very mellow, very calm, very smooth, very emotional, I think, and horrible. And there's a fun fact about this song. She sang in Walking Ghost and The Sorrow Within. Now, Walking Ghost is a very mellow song, as you can hear. Starts very smoothly but sad. It's very melancholical. It's very, kind of like... And then this happens. Oh my god, I was detuning there. Anyway, there is only one part of the song with drums, which is somewhere here, yeah. When the song really opens up and stuff. Let me hear just a little bit of her voice. I really love her voice here. Let's see where it is. Oh man, come on. Oh Jesus Christ, this is horrible. She's gonna sing some, I think. No. Where did she sing here? There she is. Oh man, this brings me so back. Anyway, I actually forgot to render the drums for this track, and that's why. Let me explain. So, you know that there are drums here at this part, right here and all of that. But this song was from 2 different projects that I had, because I was so bad at doing this thing. I was very naive, and this was the first time that I was using musical programs and stuff like that. And this song was split in 2 different projects. One of the projects, I had the guitar that I recorded, and I made a drum track for it. And then there was another project that I made in Reason with artificial guitars with a nice distorting sound that I liked. Where nowadays, if you listen to it, it's really not that nice. But at the time, it sounded great. So I used these 2 different projects, and I was bouncing from one to another until I got the voices down. Now, my stupidity, I completely forgot to unmute the drum track for the first section of the song, because this song is split into the mellow part and then the outro part, or whatever you want to call it, where there's actually, drums. And I didn't notice it until I actually rendered it into a CD. At the time, I usually did that. Because I didn't have any MP3 player or, that I could use so I could listen to what I was doing. So what I did was, and believe it or not, every new render that I was doing for these songs, I was ripping them out burning them into a CD that I would then listen to on my portable CD player. Cumbersome, abso-fucking-lutely, but I did it, and that's how I did things back then, because I didn't know how to do any better, and it worked out in a sort of way. So what happened was, when I did the render, after she recorded the voices, we recorded them in my house. And I was making the mix and all of that. And I don't know how it happened, but the drum track just disappeared. It was muted for some reason. When I was, mixing the song and all that, I must have muted the previous drum track because I had 2. And when I rendered it, I went for a walk, because I usually did that to listen to what I was doing. I just put I burnt the CD with all the songs. And then off I go, and, smoking a cigarette, listening to music and whatnot, taking mental notes on what I should improve and all that. And all of a sudden, this song comes in. This was not at at this particular sequence. It was different. And I was like, wait a minute. Where's the drums? Oh my God. I forgot. I muted them? But it worked for me. I was like, I actually like it without drums. It sounds weird, but I like it. It goes against what you would expect, like there would be like, a simple rhythm following the track and giving us leeway to sing. But I enjoyed it. I was like, damn, I should probably keep it like this and just leave the drum tracks to the very end of the song. And in this whole section, there's no drums. And yeah, and that's how it eventually ended like this. Another funny story, Bitter Pain, with my much dear Eduardo Serraventos, who is one of the guitar players in Ashes. This was interesting because this song was made when I was living in Tomar, where I met Ashes. And I made it for a competition at the time. This was not even made for any record particularly. There was this sort of competition for a movie. And they were actually asking, the competition essentially was you made a song and you send it to them, and if they like it, it ends up in a movie, and that's it. And I was very much wanting to tap into that universe, cinema. I love cinema. And I was very much tempted to go and do something. I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something for this movie. I want to be in it. I want to make music for movies. And I talked to Eduardo because we were very much like inseparable at that time when I was living there in Tomar. We were always together. And I love his way of writing music. I do, honestly. It's one of the things that I love most about Ashes, the way that most of the songs, not all of them, of course, because it's a collaborative effort, but most of the songs were started by him. Most of the main ideas are his in terms of guitars and main composition, even though we do all of it together, of course, and everyone has input and throws in ideas and stuff like that. I'll have to tell you some funny stories about it later on. But I asked him at the time, I was like, man, I really want to get into this competition. Can you help me? Maybe we could do something together, and we would use this music to present it to the, film company. And so we did. He came to my house at the time where I was living in Tomar, and this was an afternoon. We made it right there and then. And of course, it didn't go to the movie. But in any case, this version here is a little bit different because this has voice and drums and different sections. This was not in there. For example, the music mainly was this part without the distorted guitars, because this is a different version. I don't have the original version with me for now, I think. Let me just have a quick look here and see if I do. I don't think so, but anyway. Where would that be? Where's my workstation? Oh yeah, Geeky Boy. There it is. All right, so here we go. I have this collection of bastards, which is essentially songs that did not end up in any record. No. Yeah, it's not here. I don't think I actually have it anymore. I think. Yeah, I don't have it here, which sucks. But anyway, so Bitter Pain comes from an instrumental song that we wrote together. And then I ended up changing it completely and adding guitars and everything for this version that you hear on the record. Another excellent participation, which I'm very much fond of, is one of my dearest friends, In Through, with Ricardo Mestre. And this song, In Through, I'm going to put it right here, right now. This song is essentially a song that I asked him because we had this project called Wishful Thinking, where we made music without any boundaries. Again, electronic music, but there was no boundaries. There was no rules. We would just do what we loved to do, and that's it. At the idea, I remember one of his main core ideas for the record was, computers make noise too. I remember him saying that. And this song, In Through, was essentially a collaboration we did together on that Wishful Thinking project. And it was stopped, essentially. It was really stopped at the time. And I thought to myself, man, wouldn't it be great if this would, be part of this record that I'm making? Because it's aesthetically, it just fits. It's right in there. And I asked him. He of course, he was very kind and generous, and he let me use it. So this song, In Through, is with him. Very interesting song. I love the way that we made it. Nothing of this is real. Everything is created in Reason. This whole song was made in Reason. all the pads, all the guitars, all the weird violins that I put in there for some reason. I think there were violins in here. Or a tape kind of thing. No, it's not on this one. It's on another song. But in any case, very ambiental, very industrial. I really like it. And as you can see, as you might have already guessed, all of these little things are completely different from one another. And that's one of the beauties, of these antique records that I made. They had a specific aesthetic, which is quite random, but not, trying not to follow any sort of pattern or any sort of standardized way of making it sound. Doing what you want, precisely, and not using any sort of template or whatever. And then there was another participation from Susana, of course. I told you, she performed in 2 different songs. So this was the mellow one, and this was supposed to be a little bit of rocky, sort of industrial metal thing, which I still like. I like this song a lot. I just wish I could play guitar better at the time, because it's horrible. Nowadays, I listen to it and I'm like, oh man. Listen for yourself, and I'm gonna put it a little bit higher here. Oh, by the way, that guitar that you're listening there, that lead guitar is not a guitar. Actually, if you take close attention, there is an actual lead guitar in stereo, both left and right, and then in the middle, I made a lead guitar in a sort of way, but this lead guitar essentially was me, my voice, distorted. I did that a lot, and I loved doing it, simulating a guitar with my voice. I did it for a lot of reasons. I really loved it. And honestly, the first reason was I couldn't play that well, guitar solos or whatnot. And what I couldn't do in the guitar, I just picked up the microphone, plugged into the guitar pedal effects processor, turned the distortion on, record, and let's do this. And then, of course, mixing it and making it, or trying to make it sound right, at least. But yeah, this song is, I really love the way it sounds. I don't particularly like the way I sing in here, but I was only 20 at the time. All right, I think I recorded this song in 2005, so yeah, I was, oh dear Lord, 20 years old. Oh my God. Jesus. This was so nice. And it sounds so bad. But it does bring me back. This is how I got started, man. I mean, this is the first record. Jesus. That was horrible. Oh. I remember one of the criticisms at the time. Susana was dating one of my most dear friends, Emmanuel, and I remember he told me, you know what? I think her voice is kind of trembled. You removed the bass from her voice and stuff like that, and I was like, and that was actually on purpose. For this particular song, I actually wanted her voice to sound like it was coming out of, well, let's say telephone or whatever. So I wanted her voice to actually, I didn't want it to sound as warm, for example, as her performance here in Walking Ghost, which is, smooth and mellow and very beautiful. And in here, I wanted it to actually be a little bit more harsh, no warmthness at all. It's just put the treble on, remove the bass, and bam, there it goes. I thought it was a good idea. Obviously, it wasn't. But, that's one of the risks you take when you're making it on your own, when you're writing the songs, producing the songs, mixing everything. And in the end, you just, you pray that everything works together. And I thought it did at the time. And sometimes I can actually listen to this and think to myself, you know what? For all it's worth, it's a goddamn nice record, even in spite of all the technical difficulties I had at the time. I mean, if I only consider nowadays, with all the knowledge I have and the material I have to, that I can actually work with, that works, like the guitars, the microphones, the soundboard, and everything. Just thinking about the way I actually made this happen, all the trouble that I had going from Reason to Acid Music, and then I didn't have any plugins, and I was, just browsing from one program to the other and exporting this, loading there, changing here, and then exporting again. I'm like, oh, Jesus, the headache I have just to think about the cumbersome processes I've done to make this happen. And of course, because I didn't know it better at the time, and to be, frankly honest, at the time, things were not as easy as they are today. I mean, today you can do this in a lot more, in an easier way, in a way that everything is on the same program, because you can actually rewire programs into the same program and you can use them all together. Now, back then, I did not know how to do that, and I don't actually think that Acid Music would allow that to happen. I don't think there was that option at the time. So everything was done in a kind of manual way. And last but not least, Joel Pino, another great friend of mine back then at the time. He had this song. There was a little bit of a controversy around this song because he says it's his. Another friend of ours says it's his, and I'm kind of like, all right. But I asked him, I wanted him because he is an excellent guitar player, and he was teaching one of my best friends at the time. And I was thinking, how am I going to close this record? Because I wanted something that could evoke to, a grandiose kind of epic. Oh, hello there, coming on. What's up? I was thinking to myself, I really wanted to end the record with a blast, something that would really be inspiring and epic, but at the same time beautiful. Weird ideas that I had at the time. And I talked to him and said, "Listen, do you want to participate? I'm making this record on my own. It's a personal thing." And it would be really nice if you could make a solo, because you're so good at playing guitar. Maybe you could make a solo or two. And at the time he said, "No, I will not perform a solo, but I would rather make a full song." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, that is cool. Works for me." So essentially this song, up to this day, I still don't know whose song it is. He says it's his. Another friend of ours says it's his. It's not his. It's from the band that they were playing together at the time. I honestly don't know. I consider it to be his because we worked on it together, and I decided to put it on the record. I did not know of that at the time. But anyway, I think it's a really lovely song. And the most interesting part of the song is it kind of evokes to a certain hard rock feeling, which I am quite fond of. I mean, not a particular super fan of, the hairy hair glam metal that's from the 80s. I do like a few things, a few bands. There's a few bands that I like. And we did it. So this is one of those power ballads, I think. Kind of like All You Fool, we would call it a little bit of a zait. I don't know how you say it in English. In here we call it, there's this sort of power ballad thing that most people consider to be, how do you say it? Damn it. Lame. Right. Okay. Lame, I think. I actually like it, even though there's this little bit of this 80s vibe to it, which contrasts with the rest of the record, mind you, because the rest of the record has nothing to do with this. So, funny thing about this song, the only thing that's real in the song, it's the voice and the guitar. All the keyboards, drums, and bass were made and programmed in Reason. You can probably tell by my poor mixing. It's so funny to go back and, and to look into this record and thinking, wow, this is how I got started. Jesus Christ. I mean, literally, it's weird now that I look back and see all of this. And the cover, I have to mention the artwork from the record, of course, and this amazing cover. Actually, it's so simple. I personally think it's amazing because it's so simple and it works so well. It fits right into the record, I think, aesthetically. And this girl that you see right here, yeah, it's a girl. It's Tanya Borges. And she was the person that I was actually falling in love with at the time that I made this record. And I asked her, because she was a photographer, and she is a photographer actually. Nowadays she does a lot of that. We remained friends, we did date for a year or so, and things didn't work out at the time. I think it's because we were both kids, but never mind that. We became good friends after that, which is awesome. Much respect and love for her. And interesting enough, she was quite. She had some very interesting photos that she liked to take on, landscapes and of herself and some motifs and stuff like that. And she's shown me this. She was very present throughout the making of this record. Through the various stages of this record, she was always present. And there's a lot of her in this record, to be frankly honest. I think that without her, this record would not have been possible. And I don't say this because, of anything in particular, but the fact that we were becoming very much best friends at the time, which later on led us to a relationship of a different spectrum. But it's interesting to think that one person in your life, regardless of being your girlfriend, boyfriend, father, mother, cousin, brother, whatever, even a friend, someone that you might not be in contact with most of the time. It is interesting how someone, regardless of being whoever it is, have a huge impact on your life. And that particular person or a particular set of events lead you to create stuff. Because this record is essentially that. It's me coming out of a very bad situation back in 2004, where my life shifted completely and I ran away from home and stuff like that. It was really a bizarre year. My first relationship ended and I just ran away, like the rebel I was with 17. No, actually, God fucking damn it, I'm so bad at maths. So this was 2004, right? So I was 19, yeah. And then, yeah. Oh my God, just remembering those times. It's weird and bizarre. But yeah, I went to Tamar and all of that, and then I came back to Avar and I started to do this all over again with, everything that I learned and experienced in Tamar. And actually, after I was in Ashes for the first time, when I was auditioned for Ashes, and all of that, all of this experience, all of this particular set of experiences at the time, they're right here. they are the blueprint for this record. Everything that happened from 2003 to 2005, it's here. This is like a diary of sorts, with different episodes, different people, different experiences, different feelings, different moods, but pretty much like a painter kind of recreates the world he or she sees. I think that's exactly what I've done here with this record, and then pretty much with everything that I've done on my own. It is interesting to think of this, as human beings that we are, that we kind of use everything that we have, be it our emotions, be it our inspirations, whatever it is that gets us through the day. And in the end of it, it becomes art, regardless of being good or bad. It becomes something else, which is bigger than yourself, which has a life of its own. And I always considered this record to have a life of its own because it had two different incarnations. The first one, I didn't have any real guitars on it because I couldn't play the guitar well. I still don't, but at the time it was really bad. And then I decided to, record all the guitars and stuff, and it still didn't sound good because, well, if you can't play it right, you can't make it sound right, right? Yes, exactly. And, boy, this is not my favorite record at all. I think that up to this day, my favorite record still is Gal Gadot. I think. I'm constantly fighting myself over what I like best about what I've done in the past in the 9thCell. But in any case, today is about this one. Quick technical note, by the way. I did not have a proper way to record vocals. And this is another funny story. So, at the time, my computer didn't have what, nowadays it's so easy to find, like these different jacks and stuff like that, and connections where you can basically plug every kind of microphone into it, and USB microphones and whatnot. At the time, it wasn't quite like that. At least not for me. I did not have any sort of equipment. I had a microphone. I think that, Shattered Illusion Part 2, the vocals here were recorded with a very cheap microphone. And when I say cheap, it's like those webcam microphones that you used to have, like big ones that sounded like shit. They were super cheap, and yeah, I used it to record a lot of shit, a lot of things for this record. And one of them is the voice here, I think. Yeah, there it is. Morning came. Yeah, it was definitely recorded with that. So, funny story is, as I did not have a way to process the voices or to, directly plug the microphone to my computer, what I did was I plugged my Shure SM58, my microphone. I plugged it into the Boss, what was the name of it? ZE50, I think. Oh, I might be wrong, but I think it was the Boss ZE50. Oh my God, I could be completely wrong. I don't really know the name of this. No. ME, I think it was. Yeah. I think, come on, be this. There it is. Oh no, there is no actual image of it. It's one very similar to this. It's very similar to this. That was, oh, you're not actually seeing it. Never mind. So it essentially I was using a guitar effects pedal processor to get the voices through. One side, the voice was on a clean channel. In some cases, I did put the chorus because I was so insecure about my voice and the way it sounded that I actually kind of used the chorus to disguise my bad singing. So I turned the chorus up, and then I had this very tiny 3.5 millimeter line cable from the phone's output from the processor to the computer to the line in on the computer. So you can imagine the trouble that I had to record the voices. But that's how I did it at the time. And that's why I clip all around, because I did not know what clipping was, and I did not know that you cannot go past the red barrier. So, yeah, it's a funny story. But anyway, yeah, all of the voices here were recorded using a guitar effects processor. Jesus, man. Now that I look back and think about it, I was crazy. I wasn't afraid. That's the I think that is, now that I look back, and I'm so sorry for reminiscing a little bit more, but now that I look back, and especially these first two records, Lonely and 9 Points of Seizure, these two records were made completely fearlessly. I was experimenting with sound, with ways of recording, testing equipment, trying new things, putting my voice through distortion channels and flangers and choruses and a lot of delay and stuff like that, trying to make, experimenting in a way, finding my own sound, finding my, my voice, if you will, my identity, if you will. And that's the story of this record. I was a broken heart kid that wanted to make music and started scrapping ideas and, getting them through 3 different programs or 2 different programs, and expressing my feelings and trying to tell a story in a very naive way that actually kind of, worked in a very bizarre way. Yeah. And that's the story of Lonely. That is, actually, there is a very interesting thing about this record. This song, No One Besides the Bed. Sorry, I'm smoking while I'm talking to you, but I love it. No One Besides the Bed is a very sad song. It is from, I used Absinthe at the time. I think Absinthe 2? Maybe Absinthe 1. I can't recall. But you can tell this is Absinthe for all along. This is typical Absinthe. And then I go ways and completely fuck it up. But anyway, this was the first time that I had a reaction to this song by my English teacher again, who supported me very much at the time, and I really am very grateful. And it's interesting because when she heard the record, she told me that particular song, the very last song, made her cry. And we are talking about an adult here. We're talking about a person that was probably in her 40s, probably starting 50s. I can't be sure. And she told me, I've heard your record. I think it's awesome. And the last song made me cry. And that was the first time that I had the notion, and I was very embarrassed, actually, to be frankly honest. I did not know how to react to that. I was like, what? How is it possible that, what do you mean? Why? And she goes, because it's a very sad song and it evokes emotion all around. And I'm a very emotional person, so everything that I'm feeling goes into what I'm doing, and that's how I work. I don't know how to be different from that. And that is spread out through this whole record. You can actually sense the agony and stupid desperation that I was feeling at the time when I made it. It is very quite transparent here, and I don't hide it in any possible way. I just put it out there because, to be frankly honest, I think that an artist, regardless of its area, even an actor can do that. In the end, everything that you do in your performance or in the creation, lyrically or conceptually, or, whatever it is that you're doing, there's always a big part of your emotions in there. If you are real, you know what I mean? If you are truthfully conveying your emotions, your humanity through to the computer or whatever medium that you're using to convey your art. And it's very important that we remember how fragile we are as human beings, and how dark and at the same time how beautiful we all are. Oh my God, I just went all philosophical bullshit here, but, well, you get what I mean, right? So if you're an artist, I think, and even people that don't feel art or that don't use art as their means of expression but use other ways, like a nice chef that makes a perfect dish, there's emotion in there too, not just, striving to survive because I need money. No, I think there's a lot of passion in it, and I think that's the key here. That's what I meant in the beginning. An artist uses the soul, the emotion, the humanity, and passion, I think, in order to create, in order to exist. Being a writer or a director or, I don't know, someone who actually creates stuff, regardless of what it is. A movie, a book, a graphic novel, a game, music, of course, a play. I think that even actors feel that way, to be frankly honest. Now that I look back and reminisce on that, I think there's more to an actor. Okay, let me rephrase this. There's more to an actor's performance than you think. You know what I mean? For example, if someone is playing a character that is a bad person, and the actor on his real life or her real life, they're not bad, and they have to actually convey those negative emotions into the character. They have to go into a dark place to do that. If they're really good, if they make you believe they're this character, they have to be good. And I think that in order to do that, to convey that feeling, that emotion, it has to come from someplace, the dark place. And that's where most of my music came from, to be frankly honest. And I'm not bullshitting you. All of this is real. And all of this is very much honest and very much naive, but very much sincere. As horrible as it might sound. I still, of course, because I made it, but I still have a very fond connection to this record. And every time I listen to it, I go back and I think, oh my God, I did this like this and blah, and blah, and blah. But I always go back to the place I was at the time. And it was not a very good place. And I think that every record, every single one of these records, came from a dark place. And then, at a specific point in my time, in 2016, I decided it was time to stop it, the cycle for the 9thCell. That's when I decided, what the hell was that? I decided it was time to actually stop doing it. But anyway, the 9thCell, Lonely, yeah, my very first record, bits and scraps from many songs that I did not use, that I didn't have anything planned with it, and all of a sudden I decided to myself, I really, really, really want to make a record with this. And of course, nowadays you listen to this and you go like, Jesus Christ, this sounds horrible. And it does in its own way, because it's not metal, it's not rock, it's not something you can actually point your finger at and say, haha, this is prog rock or prog metal or industrial metal, or what the fuck is this? Because this is a mix of everything, to be frankly honest. And that's how I like it. Very honest. I'm not lying or hiding in whatever thing. So thank you so much for being here with me through this. How long am I? Oh my Jesus fucking Christ. 1 hour and 36 minutes. Jesus. I didn't know it would take this long. I thought it was like half an hour or something. But anyway, I think it's very important for everyone to reach out to one another in this particular time. And it's very hard to do. The pandemic, when it started almost a year ago, yes, this pandemic started a year ago. Now think about it. It did not affect me at first. To be honest, I was very happy with the pandemic in a sort of way. I could stay at home all the time. I could work from home. I could spend time doing what I love to do. And, okay, yeah, it was bad that I couldn't go out. Couldn't see my friends. But I was always a little bit of a homey guy. I always loved to stay at home. And, sometimes being in social situations was kind of, I don't know how to say it, how to put it in mild words. But I've discovered that I'm actually a little bit of an antisocial. That I always have been. Well, not always. There was a part of in my life that I just couldn't think about staying at home. I had to go out. I had to be with people and, whatever, get drunk and all that jazz. That was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Now that I look back at it, I said, Jesus, such a kid. But I think we all go through phases, right? So you have the drunk phase, you have the druggy phase, or the sex phase, or whatever phase you decide that it's best for you. But in the end, it all comes to what you learn and how you use that knowledge to become a better person. And throughout this year, the pandemic did not affect me at first. But then I started to feel something changing within me, which affected my music as well, because nowadays I can't make music. At least for now. I don't feel the need. I don't want to. I agonize at the very thought of making music, which is weird. It is completely unnatural to me. I've always been a very musical person. Ever since ever since I remember myself. I was very musical. And nowadays, to even think of doing or making music, it's an agony. I know that a lot of people out there are feeling the same way. Not just about music, but about something else. Something they liked to do, something they actually were very much fond of doing. And maybe nowadays there is no motivation and they don't want to do it anymore. I am fighting myself like hell, to be frankly honest. I have quit a few projects in these past 2 months. Like I said, to prioritize some things in my own life. And I think that is why I needed to go back and reminisce on what I've done previously. And of course, because I loved what Devin Townsend did with his podcast and keeps doing, and that inspires me like hell. I love him. And that I think that's why I decided to take a shot and do this. So thank you very, very, very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for being here, listening, if you were here in the live stream. Or if you're listening to this at any other time, just remember, in spite of the circumstances in which we all are, you are not alone. All right? I am at a somewhat very much dark period. And I'm trying to motivate myself to rise up to the occasion and inspire myself to do things. And music has become a burden in a way. I know this is probably a phase, and I do hope it is, but I know that I'm not the only one feeling this way. This pandemic and all the restrictions, they can mess up with your mind, whoever you are. But just know that you are not alone. Reach out to your loved ones, to your friends, call them, or just send them a message. If you are like me, I hate technology in a way. I hate to call people. I very much prefer to actually be mano a mano, face to face, and talk with people and hug people. And, unfortunately, that's not possible for now. And I feel I'm detaching myself from myself. And I see that this is not only happening with me, but with a lot of people I know. And we all have to be very careful. We all have to be very much aware of our own mental sanity, of our own selves, and the people around you. So, this was my ramble attempt of making some sort of creative thing, which I honestly don't have any kind of motivation to do nowadays, but this is it. This was my attempt at a creative output that I, for some reason, have a pressure to do in my head constantly. Every single minute of my life, it's like you need to create something, you need to do something, make music, make noise, make whatever you want to make. It's always here in my head. It's a constant motion, looping and looping and looping and going constantly there. And it has a huge weight on my shoulders, and it's ridiculous because it's really self-imposed. And a lot of these that you see here, all of these records were self-imposed. I had a label here from my very good friend Joel Costa, of course, and here in this record, this was an experiment with a very good friend of mine, a person I dearly love even nowadays, that's it. Life is connections, and you can get connections, you can lose connections, but the most honest truth is that in the process you may end up losing yourself, and you cannot let that happen. So, after this whole 1 hour and 44 minutes of random bullshit that I keep throwing around, thank you for being with me here today. I hope that this has entertained you in some weird fashion or way. And maybe, who knows, it might have inspired you to do something, And be safe out there. And I know that you are a tinkerer, Salty, yeah. It is a low point in terms of inspiration. I think it's a general feeling, to be frankly honest. It is. I honestly am fighting myself every single day of my life. And this affects not only music, but affects my own personal life as well at many different levels. And you have that voice in your head, exactly like you're saying, to do something, to make it happen. I personally feel that. And I felt that voice from the 9thCell. For example, this project here was my go-to place where when I needed to do something or to creatively transform something into reality, this is the project that I used. That's why it's so strange. That's why some of the records are weird and so different from one another, honestly. But the point is that this was my scapegoat. This is where I was going into hiding in a sort of way, hiding in plain sight, because everything is right there. If you know me well enough or good enough, you'll see everything here. But nowadays, I don't even feel like doing any more of this. Of course, I love to sing with Sullen and Ashes, 120, and with Topeka, of course, great guy. I love to sing, and it's something that I don't see myself quitting from. But for the time being, I am completely uninspired. And going back to these records and seeing where they all came from, remembering all those funny stories. And I only started with this one. I might pick up on the rest of them through the following days or weeks or whatever. It was fun. It was really interesting to go back, remembering where I came from, my roots. And I think it's a nice exercise for everyone to stop for a moment. Just stop. Have a cigarette or wine or whiskey or whatever is your indulgence, and contemplate what you've done throughout the years. Try to figure out exactly what it was that made you want to do what you do today. And maybe we can find an answer together, and maybe we can inspire each other and come out of this pandemic, whenever this ends, with a healthy footnote. So to you, my friends, thank you very much. I wish you all a good night or a good day, wherever you're doing this, and always remember that you are not alone in this world, regardless. So reach out for your people. If you don't feel like doing anything creative, just don't. Don't force yourself to it. Rather enjoy other people's work, movies, bands, books, paintings, sculptures, whatnot. And much love to all of you. And like Arnold Schwarzenegger so eloquently put in the first Terminator, I'll be back. See you around.